Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Alright, this is a story from when I worked at a fair in my freshman year of college. A backstory doesn't matter, but I think someone will ask anyway, so I had to work here to get money for food and start getting money for my student loans. Now to start the story. It was a pretty hot day at the fair and I was working under a tent at the bumper cars. I'm pretty sure the manager just didn't want to deal with an 18-year-old getting heat stroke because of him. Anyways, I see the entitled mother and a poor kid approach the rides. The poor kid's face is as red as Rudolph's nose. All he had in his hand was a lollipop, and the entitled mother was chugging a bottle of water. I also noticed that the poor kid looks too light to go on a ride. At the fair I worked for, we have to weigh the people going on bumper cars, so they won't break their bones when they get hit by another car. After about 20 minutes, the entitled mother and her poor kid make it to the front. I put the poor kid on the scale and, as guessed, he's too light. And the following conversation ensues. A bit of rewarding, because I don't remember the exact conversation. Sorry ma'am, but your son is too light for this ride. Maybe I suggest one of the other ones?
No, he'll be fine. Just let him on.
Ma'am, I can't do that.
Alright, I'll just leave him here then.
It is not my job to babysit your kid.
Do not disrespect me.
Alright then. I just decided to let this go and watch the poor kid for a little while. I let everyone onto the ride and just as I'm about to start, I hear a thump and tons of gasps. I turn to look behind me and the poor kid is on the ground passed out. Thank God my podium was in the grass. I quickly called the manager on the walkie-talkies he gave us and picked up the kid. Does anyone have any water? I yell. A lady hands me a bottle and I pour it on the kid's face to cool him down. The manager comes with an ice pack to cool down the poor kid, and this whole time the entitled mother has been huffing and puffing and mumbling about how the ride hasn't started yet. I ignored all of this until she finally said something out loud.
Leave him, he'll be fine.
Ma'am, we can't do that, he could die.
No, he won't. He's my kid and I know what's best.
I was fuming at this point that this lady was choosing a ride over her child. I took out my phone and called the police to arrest this lady and get an ambulance for this kid, who seemed to be waking up now. The entitled mother tried to run when she saw what I was doing, but some random stranger held her down so she couldn't go anywhere. The entitled mother even tried to press charges against the guy who held her down. The cops arrived with the ambulance. The poor kid was placed in the ambulance. The entitled mother was placed in the cop car and CPS was called. Her poor husband was called as well, but the CPS was needed to investigate the home. The entitled mother ended up getting charged for numerous things, but the only one that I vividly remember was child endangerment. She got what she deserved. A few months later, I saw the poor kid and his dad in a store, and I walked up to them. Turns out the poor dad was in the process of divorcing the entitled mother and currently had full custody of the kid. Sweet, sweet justice. It was a typical Wednesday evening and I had just finished my last appointment of the day at my dental office. As I closed up my clinic, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment knowing that I had helped my patients. My wife and I had made plans to have a quiet dinner at home and we were looking forward to relaxing after a long day. As we were discussing our plans for the rest of the week, suddenly we heard a loud commotion coming from the front of the house. At first, we thought it was just kids playing outside, but as the noise grew louder, we quickly realized that it was someone trying to break down our front door. My wife and I rushed to investigate and were shocked to find Karen, one of my patients, standing on our porch, screaming and demanding to be let in. She was shouting things like,
"You need to treat me now. I can't wait any longer.
And even,
I'm entitled to your service anytime I want."
We were both in shock. We never expected anything like this to happen. I mean, I always thought she had a screw loose, but damn it, not like that. What are you doing here, Karen? How did you get my home address? My office is closed and you missed your appointment today. I exclaimed, trying to remain calm, but my heart was racing. I couldn't believe that one of my patients would come to my house uninvited, breaking in and demanding treatment.
I know, but I couldn't wait any longer. I need to see you now.
She shouted, completely disregarding the fact that she was trespassing in my private residence and putting my safety and my wife's safety at risk. She was not listening to any reasoning or explanation. Karen, this is my house, not my office. You can't just break in here. You missed your appointment and I can't see you now. I explained, trying to make her understand that this is not an appropriate way to act. But Karen was beyond listening. She was furious and she started to curse and demand that I drop everything and attend to her dental needs. She was not hearing any logic or reasoning. My wife tried to intervene and explain to her that it's not appropriate to come to someone's house uninvited and make such demands. But Karen lunged at her, trying to attack her. And that's when my wife pulled out her taser that she clearly brought with her when we first heard the commotion and tasered her. It was a shock for all of us, but we were both terrified and had no other option. You are not welcome here, Karen. I suggest you leave before I call the police. I warned her while trying to control my anger and make sure that she understood that her behavior is unacceptable, but she was still beyond reason, refusing to listen or leave. I don't know if it was because she was stubborn or because she couldn't physically leave, but oh well. At that point, I had no choice but to make good on my threat and call the authorities. The police arrived at the scene quickly, and upon hearing our account of the events, they arrested Karen and charged her with trespassing and assault. As they led her away in handcuffs, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief that this nightmare was finally over. The next day, my wife and I discussed the incident, and we were both in shock of what had happened. We couldn't believe that a patient would go to such lengths to get dental treatment, breaking into our private home and putting our safety at risk. We also realized that we had to put more security measures in place to protect ourselves. I couldn't help but think that this experience had taught us the importance of setting boundaries and standing up for ourselves, even against entitled and difficult patients like Karen. It was a valuable lesson, but it came at a cost. We both decided to take some time off to process the events. In about the middle of January 2019, I fell due to an illness caused by having been changed from one statin drug which was working fine to one that was less compatible with my body. As a result, muscles have been slowly dying of dehydration in my still living body. I may have gone into a bit too much detail, but I think that information is needed for the next story. I don't know about other states, but here in Florida, rehab for people who need it to recover from various illness, at least for seniors, is often handled in nursing homes. Another thing that's common in nursing homes is that the staff having some idea that all the residents are just being warehoused while they wait to die. Now, while being a senior, I was only 63 at the time and far from ready to wait for death to visit me. Now for the meat of the story. I have been in rehab for a couple of months and had recovered much of my strengths. Time for me to list the cast, I suppose. So there is me, Don, the director of nursing, the lazy certified nursing assistant, and the doctor receptionist. There will be little dialogue, but I still feel the need to make that cast list. One day I had an appointment with a new doctor whose office was about 30 minutes away across town. This appointment happened to have been scheduled for a short time before I was cleared to quit using a wheelchair in favor of a rollator type of walker. This being an important appointment, I made sure that I was ready and waiting in the dining room/day room in a highly visible location. As I waited, I didn't know that the assistant, who was visible from where I was sitting in a wheelchair, was the one who would be driving. I was ready over an hour before appointment time, just trying to be sure that I will be able to go as soon as the driver was ready to take me. Remember, this is a first visit and doctors' offices always have extra paperwork for first-timers. So anyway, I sat there waiting until about 15 minutes before the appointment. At the time, I had no clue where the doctor's office was, so I figured that the driver, I still didn't know that the assistant was a driver, knew just how long it would take to get me there. Anyway, the assistant comes up to me.
Are you ready to go?
Been ready for around an hour now.
Okay, I just need to bring the van up.
Remember, I'm in a wheelchair. So not only does she need to bring the van over to the door, but she also needs to get me loaded up in the chair locked down. After loading me up and securing me in the van, we leave the facility for half-hour ride to the doctor's office. We arrived at the doctor's office over 15 minutes late. I got wheeled up to the window and handed over my paperwork. I should note here that the assistant had doubts that I was able to hold the paperwork from the van to the receptionist window. I was feeling quite insulted by her at that point. My thoughts were about her doubting my mental ability to do such a simple thing while she has sat at the nurse's station playing on her phone until it was too late to get me there on time, which to me showed that she didn't have the mental ability to prioritize her activities in such a way as to get me to the appointment on time. Anyway, I'm sitting in a waiting room and I hear my name being called. I wheel over to the doctor receptionist window. Mr. Opie, I'm sorry, but you arrived too late. Late? How much late? I asked, knowing that I was late by at least 15 minutes. Well, you were more than 15 minutes late and that's too late. It is our policy. So I will not be seen today then? Sorry. Would you like to schedule a new appointment? The nursing home wants to do that sort of thing. I guess it's to avoid conflicting appointments. On my arrival at the nursing home, I informed the appropriate staff member of the need to reschedule the appointment and go about entertaining myself while I wait for the notice of the new appointment. When my new appointment comes up, I have made enough progress that I'm allowed to use a rollator type walker rather than a wheelchair. Again, I get the lazy assistant as a driver, which doesn't bother me much until I see that she's playing with her phone when we should be getting ready to go. This time I know how much time it will take, and rather than passively waiting, I go up to the nurse's station and make sure that she gets it in gear. During the time between the appointments, I learned that the lazy assistant, aside from being one of two staff members who drive residents to places, only schedules the hours of the other CNAs. I mean, aside from playing on her phone, those two things are all she does. Anyway, even though it's quicker getting me in the van and the fact that I got her going when I did, she managed to almost make me too late again by making a personal stop on the way. We arrive and again she insults me by trying to keep control of my paperwork as we are going in. At least this time we weren't too late for me to be seen, but I didn't wait very long for the appointment. After being seen by the doctor, I got the paperwork that I needed to take to my PCP. Actually, I turned that paperwork over to the nurse working my wing at the time. However, after I received the paperwork, I stepped out into the waiting room, and because I expected to leave right away, I stood there waiting for the lazy assistant to get done conversing with the receptionist. While I waited, I heard them talking about job openings at the doctor's office and watched the lazy assistant accept a business/appointment card for the doctor's office. No, it was not a new appointment for me. I actually didn't need to see that doctor again. So I stood there much longer than I should have had to. And as far as I could see, the lazy assistant would have been just fine grabbing for quite a while longer. But the receptionist spoke to me and that reminded the assistant that she had a job to do. On the way to the nursing home, the lazy assistant felt the need to make another personal stop, and this one took enough time that I got stuck eating at PB&J because I was too late for lunch. That was the last straw. I was not going to deal with her again. While it was pretty much accidental, here comes a revenge, and I think it qualifies as pro-revenge as well, but I'm told posting it here would be better. I had developed a pretty good rapport with Dawn, the director of the nursing home, and I went to see her. I was said then that conversation follows. She says, "Hello, Mr. OP, what can I do for you today?" It's about the lazy assistant." "What about her?" "I want it on record. If I'm lying with blood gushing out of a major arterial wound, I don't want her to even give me first aid. I want her to just let me bleed out. Also, I don't want her involved in any part of my medical needs. Please tell me what brought this on." I told her what happened over those 2 appointments and that I was not going to have someone delaying my progress, recovering my health, just so she could advance another level in some silly game on her phone. I also told her of the part of the conversation the lazy assistant had with the doctor's receptionist that I was present for. The next day, someone who was more together than the usual resident there heard about my conversation and advised me that if the lazy assistant gets demoted to a regular CNA, I was at risk of having to deal with her. I said I wasn't worried because not being signed in by family or the state, I had some control over my medical care, and I had said I would refuse any care from her and will be able to make it stick. Within a week, the lazy CNA was no longer spending her days sitting in a nursing station, playing on her phone. And by the time I was discharged from there, I had noticed that the lazy CNA had not been around for a while. Aside from her losing the cushy job status, she may have also lost her job entirely. Staying vague cause of reasons. I used to work in manufacturing and was part of a process engineering team. The team would create areas for members to work in with specific equipment for the job. My job was to price up and order and install the equipment. The equipment was in kit form and every area needed a version of the kit. Like a jigsaw, some needed a 200-piece, some needed the 1000, but it was all the same bits. We were tasked with a new process. The PEs figured out what they wanted, and I set about pricing it all up, using what I already had, and created an order, receipt, and install plan. New process was 12 weeks away, and the stuff I needed had a 6-week lead time. No problem. That was until the money men pulled all the funding. The new directive was to install a new process with 0 cost. Oh, genius. So, at 12 weeks to go, I told all the PEs, there is gonna be no new equipment. I moved on to other tasks, abandoning all the kids' work. We have weekly meetings where I report every week. Well, I have no money, so no new kits. With 5 weeks to go, all the PEs and manufacturing teams eventually realize that they are in trouble. Without the kits, they have massive increases in their process times and won't achieve the process. So they all go en masse to the money men. We need these kits. After a few days, one of my bosses I had loads comes to me and says, got you the money. Order them kits. Well, it's a bit useless to ask now. I reply, oh, the kit plans are from 12 weeks ago. And apart from the fact most of the PE's plans will have changed, the kits won't get here in time anyway, as it's 4 weeks to go and the stuff needs to be ordered 6 weeks before. Just order it anyway. We will sort it. He demands. There is no point, boss. That ship has sailed. The supplier won't be able to deliver. Right, let's go talk to that supplier. So off we go, 3-hour drive, where my boss asks the supplier, what can we do to get the kits on time? Order it when OP told you to. But whatever we do now, I cannot guarantee when you will get it. So plan for 6 weeks. I was asked to leave the room where I assume they discussed money. I believe, not certain, the original cost I had priced up was nearly doubled. So back in the office next day with 4 weeks to go, boss comes to me and says, can you create a receiving plan for the kits please? So I do, with a 6-week lead time to arrive 2 weeks later than we needed. I show the boss. Change the receiving date to 4 weeks, not 6. But that's not correct, boss. Just do it. I'll lean on supplier, get it sorted out. I redo the plan, 4-week lead time, not 6. I printed off a couple of copies. Give one to boss 1, then go straight to another boss, and inform him of what's going on. Boss 2 thanks me for the information and follows boss 1 into a manager meeting, where sure enough boss 1 tells everyone the kits will be here in 4 weeks. Lots of well dones and good jobs are slapped upon boss 1. In the next 4 weeks, boss 1 rings supplier every day and reports back everything is peachy. Boss 2 gets me to follow up daily with supplier. And it's far from peachy. They are in chaos trying to get multiple kits together with 0 prep and short lead time. As tool day arrives, supplier has not been ready. Boss 1 insists they send what they have. Boss 1 feeds back, there is a delay. Upper management is furious. Who told you that it would be ready? Boss 1. I was just going off the receiving schedule. Boss 2 interjects. Excuse me, but my equipment guy gave me a plan that did say 6 weeks. The upper management says, who's doing 2 different schedules? And Boss 1 answers, there has obviously been a mistake. I'll investigate. Upper management, where did you get that schedule? Boss 1, let's take this outside this meeting and I will fully brief you. Anyway, so remember I said it's like a jigsaw? The first delivery, suppliers send the corner pieces for every kit. Next day, the bottom edge pieces for every kit. The top edge pieces for every kit. Basically, we ended up receiving a bit of every jigsaw every day. For 2 full weeks. So 6 weeks after ordering, all the jigsaws were in. Exactly like I told them they would be. Thanks to a bit of a jiggery pokery on my part, we managed with my excellent team to install kits daily by using the new stuff and bastardizing old stuff. I was kinda the face of the kits, so I wanted it in to save face really. No one ever asked me about the schedules, and Boss 2 tells me that the right people found out what happened. Boss 1 was told that he needed to relocate to another country, or there wasn't a position for him anymore. So he basically was forced to leave our site. I eventually had my fill too. I left soon after. Who wants to be in a job where the very thing they employ you to do, they tell you you are wrong and ignore you, then ask you to pick up the pieces of the wreckage afterwards? And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.